what I sort of glossed over, I suppose, in the talk was that after I wrote that thriller, The Grid, I actually got a research grant to enable me to look into the whole consciousness thing because I was so interested in it. I'd become so fascinated by the whole area, having written the novel, that I thought I'd really like to research this properly. But why? I'm an aerospace guy. That's my background, my field. But I got a grant to research it, and I did for 2 years. And then, even more extraordinarily, but people who sort of know a thing or two about consciousness know that synchronicity is all sort of a part of this. Is that at the time that I finished this research, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I had 2 years worth of research on consciousness. Didn't know what to do with it. Then Bigelow holds the Biggs contest, and I'm able to pile all of this stuff into that. And I feel now, I say in my essay, I'm an interloper here, because sure enough, pretty much all the other winners have got PhDs or their MDs or whatever. But I said, if there's one thing I can do, possibly, it's I'm a communicator. And I felt that a lot of the concepts and ideas and about consciousness that I would read about was, to my mind, quite arcane. I mean, it's discussed in very elliptical ways. It is, because no one understands what consciousness is. So that's a fair thing. But
it's called metaphysics.
What I tried to do in my essay was use things like the analogy that I spoke to about Don Hoffman and the computer screen. You're asking me about, do I think that consciousness survives permanent bodily death? I do, because that's what I wrote in my essay. And I'd be very happy to share my essay with anyone here who wants to read it. They've not been released yet.
So my reason for asking that is I actually did enter the essay contest myself. I didn't win anything, but I did, in advance of my question, post a copy of my essay in the chat session. So I would request you please download it and take a look at it. And essentially what I'm curious about is, my next question was, do you think consciousness is limited to humans? Or do animals and, say, plants and other forms of life have consciousness too?
Yeah, I didn't go into this in depth in the essay, but I did. I think it's ubiquitous. I think it's everywhere. I think everything has a little bit of consciousness. And I know that's the panpsychist.
That's the Or theory, right?
So sort of along that lines, my other question was, do you think the universe is conscious?
I do, yeah, in a word.
Interesting. So I would request you to check my essay out. I include links there to some videos. Curiously, I found in my research there's mine focused on ghosts, because ghosts are something where you can collect data from it in the electromagnetic spectrum. So it's something you can actually collect hard data on.
Sure.
So I noticed a lot of videos of pet ghosts. And then the other thing I noticed that I found interesting is what survives death seems to be related to feelings. So people that suffer trauma, they will, they'll be angry or something. Or people that are happy. Like, I saw a lot of ghost videos of dogs where the dogs were playing, live dogs and ghost dogs were playing, and their tails are wagging. So you can tell they're happy. You follow? So those are some of my observations, and so that's basically what I was curious about, is your thoughts on consciousness. I also think finally the final thing I would say is, I noticed that and this relates to the UFOs, things like the Tic Tacs. It seems like ghosts can do space-time metric engineering, like we see in the Tic Tac. So he's making right turns.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Michael, let me
read your piece, Michael. Thank you.
So let me go, and I know Jeremy he is far more aerospace focused. So let me focus back in with Jeremy Reese here. Jeremy? There we go.
I don't know if you can hear me. It's kind of loud here, and
Yeah, can you turn your camera on, Jeremy?
I can't. I don't know what's going on with my unless I exit out of Zoom. So that's
Okay. What was your question for Nick, Jeremy?
sorry about that. Nick, thank you for joining the conference. I had a question about, and now I forgot it because I got so much going on around me here, man. I wish I could turn my camera on so you could see this. We had it set up before.
See, Nick, you have everyone starstruck. That is the problem. They're forgetting questions.
I'm erasing their memories.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So, my question was, I forgot. I was just,
Okay.
he was just talking about before Michael Boyd was talking, and then Michael Boyd just took so long. I was like, oh, sorry. I'll come back to it.
Yeah, come back to it. Let me go to Jeremiah Pop next. Jeremiah he's been thinking. I can tell you.
Yes, I have to ask Nick, because it's funny. We've been having conversations here, and with calls between myself, my girlfriend, and many other people across the world, typically about the nature of consciousness post-death. And we've had discussions that range all the way from microtubules as a mechanism of producing scalar geometric fields to other types of influenced photon types of interactions that might persist for a super long time, that are matter-like in a manner of speaking. And of all nature of the discussions, we've never been able to narrow down a mechanism of action, a mechanism of where these fluxes or fields go, or what exactly they're affecting in terms of, what is the mechanism that would allow, say, consciousness or some kind of complex geometric field produced by the human experience, or the mind in this case, what form would it exist in? That's really what I wanted to know. And I also wanted to mention, if Nick, you have any papers at all relating to this subject, or post-death consciousness, I would be extremely interested if you would send them. I'm going to go ahead and send you right now a message, PM. My email address is there. So I'd be very, very interested to hear more about that and do deeper research, because that's been a hot topic for the last week. It's just funny to even hear it being, talked about, and I guess apparently a lot of people are interested in it, not just us.
I think, Nick, this may be your next book.
Well, I'm still struggling here because my motto is stick to what you know, and I'm not sure that I do know a tremendous amount about this, but I just do find it endlessly fascinating. So, Jeremiah, to answer your second question first, which is, do I have any papers on it? The only paper I've got is the Bix essay that I just got this award for. So, which I'm very happy to share. It's not been posted yet on the Bix website. So I'm just asking people who do. Tim, I'll send it to you. Maybe you can send it to people.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But I'm just saying.
I DM'd you my email address too, Nick. So in the chat, if you check that, you click on it.
Okay.
Highlight my email address in there. You just copy paste it. It should be pretty easy.
Yeah, Jeremiah, I can forward it to Nick as well.
That would be awesome. Thanks.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I will happily share it with you, Jeremiah. And I'm just asking people, please don't share it any further for the moment until it's publicly released, which it will be, I guess, in a week or two.
It's understood. Absolutely. We'll keep it on the down low.
And rather than go into your first question, I'm hoping that actually your first question will be answered when you read the essay. I mean, it really it expands on everything that I really researched for those 2 years that I was looking at consciousness. It just happened that a slice of it was about the post-death component. So I hope you find it interesting, and I certainly welcome your comments when you've read it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
That answers all my questions.
Okay, thank you. Let me go back to so Jeremy. Let me go back to you. I will go back to or Brenda's screen. Okay.
Okay, so now you got my video here. I'm at the conference, and you guys can see a little bit. My question was actually about Boyd Bushman, and I heard that there was two Boyd Bushmans from David Sereda when I interviewed him. He mentioned there were actually two different guys with the same name, Boyd Bushman. And you talked like the earlier Boyd was so much different than the later Boyd. Was he just talking about that, or were there actually two physical people with that same name?
God, I don't know. That's a new one on me. I mean, it sounds a little bit like, Paul McCartney. Was there a sort of duplicate Paul McCartney out there who, the real Paul McCartney was killed and was replaced by someone else? To my knowledge, there was only one Boyd Bushman. When I referred to two Boyd Bushmen, I was really sort of saying that the one I knew was very different from the one that I saw talking about aliens at Area 51 towards the end of his life. That's what I meant. If there was another one, I mean a physical Boyd Bushman, I am unaware of it.
Yeah, thanks. I had never heard of that one before too, and David mentioned it, so I was wondering if
I suspect it was metaphorical. I mean, Boyd, Boyd invented the Stinger missile back in the 50s, I think, right? So he was very rigorous. He was this rigid part of the establishment, and then in his later years, his personality shifted. He got into out there. So I guess a metaphor. Let me go to Carl next. Carl.
Hey Nick, thanks so much. This was a great presentation. Thanks, Tim. I have so many questions. The realm of consciousness is really fascinating. Did you talk at all about Laplace's demon and the idea of the universe being aware atomically of everything in its composition?
Carl, I didn't quite hear what you said at the first half of the question. I heard the part about it, was about the universe being aware. But
Laplace's demon.
No. No. Not in those terms. The idea to me that the universe is aware does certainly resonate with me. I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist, so I've struggled to try and articulate, how the mechanisms for how that could be. So my models are pretty simple, really, but I subscribe to the idea that the universe is essentially holographic. I subscribe to the idea that we may have mechanisms that are holographic too, that resonate with the universe at large to provide some channels of communication which allow, I suppose in sort of millennial parlance, would be downloads. We get intuitive senses from nowhere, apparently. I mean, we all do, I know. I mean, as a writer, I find that, perhaps at times when I'm in the midst of, some written thought and I'm banging away at the the keyboard, a thought will come to me, and I have no idea where that thought comes from. But it seems to me that not only is it coming from non-local space, but it is quite often associated with a question that I put out there. And it's very easy to be seduced by, perhaps, a sort of this idea that everything revolves around me, and therefore, what I put out there is coming back to me personally. But I know plenty of people who test it on that basis, who will throw a question out and then wait for the answer to come back. The trickiness to me is that, and this is where I probably could do with Boyd Bushman, the language that the universe speaks does not appear to be if we can call it a two-dimensional language that we use. It is on a plane that is utterly bizarre. And that, I think, in a way, is where the UFO phenomenon fits as well. I personally believe that there is a symbolic aspect to UFOs, a non-literal aspect to them, a metaphorical aspect to them. That I mean, plenty of people I know who've had encounters will report that they feel that the encounter, the appearance of the UFO, has been meant for them personally. That there has been something in that sighting, the encounter, that you know, they were driven to look into a portion of the sky, and there was this thing, and it was apparently speaking to them. But speaking how? I mean, it's not, you know, it's not using a megaphone to communicate. I mean, sometimes they do, but more often than not, it's not. It appears to be symbolic in some sense, and that I think is the language that the universe uses, that highly symbolic, and we haven't learnt to decipher it yet. But somehow, you know, that is the task before us, which means that it's not just given, I think, therefore, to physicists to master this, but, you know, as I said earlier, to people from many disciplines who can, you know, in a multidisciplinary way, shed light on this, which is what I think we have to do. I'm sorry, I probably didn't answer your question, but
you answered 20 of my questions, beyond which I'm gladly turn it over to the group. But thank you so much for that, because I really do agree and with a lot of those ideas, and think they resonate with things that we observe in the world that don't have explanations or easily or can be easily explained. So, but I would turn it over to the group, and thank you so much, Mr. Duff.
Thank you.
We can't hear you, Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, Paul. Okay, I had myself muted. Okay, I was just saying thank you. Okay, he was nodding like he heard me. Okay, I was gonna say, Bernie, would you like to ask the next question?
Thank you. So first off, Nick, you are amazing. Thank you so much for everything you have done. I'm just wondering, would it be possible to schedule and book you for a interview stream, a follow-up with myself and Jeremy at a later date, so that we can go further into consciousness?
Yeah, Bernie, for something like that, let's do this again. Let's put a pin in that. Bernie, if you can email that to me, I know you just emailed me last week. Send that to me. I will forward that over to Nick, and we'll see. And we'll do it that way.
I'd be happy to, Bernie. By the way, that's perfectly.
So my question / comment is more about looking at consciousness as a scalable dimension, or existing through higher dimensions and lower dimensions, and from like a cellular level in like a 1 or 2D to existing like remote viewers, for instance, that they would be in a 4th or 5th dimensional consciousness where they're existing throughout space-time or localized space-time. And then anything of like a demigod or higher would be like a 5th, 6th, 7th, who knows how far up we go. But in our 3rd dimensional consciousness that is Earth, human of free will, and 2D would be emotional, good or bad, surviving. 3D is free will thinking. And then 4 is when you dream, or when you have your out of body or whatnot, the quantum mechanic, or through space, traveling through space time, essentially.
Well, Bernie, your thoughts on that are probably in advance. Well, in fact, I can categorically say they're some way in advance of my own. I mean, in the sense that, like you, I share the view that entities, if you would like to claim that, exist on a spectrum.